Herbie Mack is founder and CEO of Just Believe, highlighting and removing the stigma surrounding anxiety and depression. If you are feeling down and out, overwhelmed, then you do not want to miss this episode as Herbie tells you how to cope and heal. Well, Herbie Mack, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I just want to let anyone viewing this video and or listening, please understand there's the brain of someone who's not in law enforcement. Here's the brain of someone who's in law enforcement. They're exactly the same. Please understand that we are all human. And Herbie has experienced trauma just like you as an officer or a first responder has. So let's dive right into that. Herbie, can you tell me about the time you really experienced trauma before, particularly gunfire? What happened?
During the time I was about 16, 17 or something like that. And I was coming home from work. Actually, I was just a little older. I was 17, 18. So I was coming home from work. And as I was coming home, I hear these two gang members, they was blood. They was arguing in front of my building about money. And I was just like, okay, well, let me hurry up. It's about 2, 3 in the morning. All I remember hearing is just like the sound of a gun getting cocked back. And I was just like, oh, okay. Like, what is going on? So I look back just to, glance back just to see, like, was they just talking or was it just like bluffing? Or so as I glance back, I see one shot getting let go. So I put my head down naturally and ran into my building.
Dang.
And as I run into the building, I'm like, man, I don't have enough time to chase. I don't have enough time to hit the elevator. So I was just like, let me just hit the stairs, not realizing that they was running into the building, shooting after each other. So instantly I'm like running up the stairs, started tripping, stumbling. And then I hear, I'm going to kill you. And my heart just dropped because I had nothing to do with it. But when these two was in the middle of arguing, they didn't realize it was the third person there, nor I'm pretty sure they didn't care. So I was just instantly was like, okay, let me go into the other staircase. Now, the other person who's getting shot at is in that staircase saying that you try to kill me, it's time for me to kill you. He's talking to me. Thank God none of them saw like my face or anything like that. So I'm just running in and out of the staircase. As I getting to another one, I hear the same guy like, I hear you, I'm going to kill you. And my heart is in my lap. And for the first time, I'm like, man, I'm about to die for something that I haven't done. Right. It wasn't nothing that like I was in this situation. I was just coming home from work, getting ready to take my kid's sister to school the next day. And I'm getting chased and chased. I'm going in and out of the staircase. And luckily, I was able to go to the floor that I used to live on. And I opened the door. As soon as I closed the door, like my heart is pounding. And the guy just like slams open the door. I know he's in here. I'm going to effing kill him. And I'm just like, oh, man, like I'm about to die. I remember just hearing the door slammed of the staircase, just slam. And I just locked my door. I try to breathe a little bit. And then instantly you hear about 6, 7 rounds just getting let off in the staircase.
Dang.
I called my girlfriend during the time and I was just like, yeah, I'm done. Like, I'm hyperventilating, like crying. And this is about the second shootout that I was in. Like I was actually in. Like the first one was like playing basketball and these guys was just shooting up. But this one, like I was actually in and it was really aiming at me. That was trauma that I wasn't really prepared for. I didn't tell my mom about it until my mom didn't know about it until the first episode of my podcast. Right.
Wow.
And this is I was like 17, 18. Time my mom's like, why you never told me about this? And I was just like, well, to be honest, I didn't want you to fear for my life. Instantly, you would have told me to quit my job, which I was like during the time helping out with the rent and all this stuff and trying to save up to get a better life. And I was like, I didn't want that. Like, I saved up 6 months later and I left and I moved to Tampa where I'm at now.
That story that one, you survived. Thank God you did. But also these things that you just explained, exposure to gunfire, fearing for your life, having the heart pounding, all these things are what police officers like myself and other first responders can experience on any given day, and some do experience it more frequently than others. There's the same mental and physical reactions. What was kind of the aftermath reaction of that?
Yeah. Definitely the next day I was still traumatized, right? Because I know the people who I know them, right? Like I know them from being around the neighborhood. And I was just traumatized. Like, man, I could have died last night, right?
Was that a thought that kept going through your mind? I could have
Oh
died. I could
yeah,
have died.
yeah. I could have died. That thought was going in my mind for at least 5 months until I
How
moved. Right,
how did you feel physically when that thought ran through your mind?
a panic attack.
Okay.
Right, I never knew what a panic attack was, but it was just like my heart was like pounding out my chest. Everything was moving too fast, and during the time I was watching The Matrix, right?
Hmm.
And I remember Morpheus, like he's doing like a lot of like breathing methods and trying to teach Neil and stuff. So I was just like, you know what, let me try that. Right, I wasn't exposed to yoga or anything like that, but
Right.
I was exposed to like meditation. Right, so I took those like when my heart was pounding. Okay, let me try to meditate and think and calm down, and those methods helped me overcome that hyperventilating stuff and
Right.
and the fear and the phobia of being scared to leave my house. So like, I was just like, man, I got to be home before 11, right? Because this happened at about 2 and 3 in the morning. I got to be home before 11. So it kind of helped me put me at ease, learning some techniques, but then really being able to talk to my girlfriend about it, right? Because she was, I'm originally from the Bronx, so she's from the Bronx, so she kind of got my area. So I was like talking to her about it and being okay, being vulnerable. That was something I had to learn.
And I'm glad you brought that point up because I myself, at one time in my career in law enforcement, I was just told when the job is done at the end of the day, go home and don't bring the job home with you. And I get that to a certain extent where you don't want to go home and watch a movie about policing or keep your radio on so you can hear what the oncoming shift or what the replacing shift is doing while you're home. I get that. But I didn't know that there are emotions, there are thoughts that you take home. And then I didn't ever open up about it. That's great that you bring up talking to someone. There's nothing wrong with doing that.
Yeah, I had to learn who to talk to,
Right.
right? Like they always say, hey, talk to someone, but not everyone can handle that type of type of stuff that you're gonna unpack on them.
Hmm.
Um, I know like I couldn't talk to some of my friends, like some of my male friends, they didn't get it. Like, hey, man, it happens every day, man. Come on, like chill out. And like there was no empathy or anything like that. You kept hearing the phrase "man up,"
Yeah. Oh
right?
yeah. Yeah. I've heard that
And
a thousand times.
yeah, so like you hear that all the time. So it was like I couldn't really talk to them. Some of them never really got it, and I didn't want to talk to my mom because of the parenting type of style. Like I didn't want her
Right.
to like to try to baby me or anything like that. I was dating my girlfriend. I was just like, you know what? If I can't talk to her, then who can I talk to? So like I spoke to her about it. She was there. She didn't. It wasn't like she was like, oh, everything's gonna be okay. She was just like, thank you for sharing. Like thank you. Like let's try to walk through this. And she was just like, hey, why don't you just come down here? You don't have to worry about it. It's a different environment. You don't end up like a product of your environment. So I did. I saved up like 6 months and I was out and never looked back since. But other doors had to open after that.
That's good. You got away from it. Sometimes I know police officers have a hard time getting away, having an outlet, even if it means having to actually leave the job or leave where you are. Okay, we talked about the symptoms you kind of went through from that experience, but you weren't exactly out of the woods at this point necessarily with challenges in life really taking a toll on you, right?
No, not at all. Like as I moved and I came to Tampa, no one tells you that whatever problems that you didn't address comes with you.
Right.
So I moved and I was still like traumatized from the shootout. Being like the second shootout in probably like 2 years in a row. So it was just like, all right, I'm traumatized from that. And then I had a sister who passed from brain cancer.
Oh
Like,
my.
when I was about 14, 15, she was 3. So I
Hmm.
was still traumatized from that, right? Because I had so much emotions that I never knew how to express myself. So during this time, like I'm just like, all right, let me do something with my life. And I decided to go to college and I picked up a major drinking habit, not because drinking was cool. I just wanted to get away from the trauma that I experienced. So
Understood. Please talk to me about that drinking because 25% of police officers on patrol will experience substance abuse issues. And that was from a study done only a few years ago. And I know the stress of the job has not gotten any lighter. So please dive into that.
once I moved to Tampa and I was all like settled, I went to college and I picked up a drinking habit. And the drinking habit was not because I thought it was cool. I like the taste of alcohol. I just wanted the pain to go away, right? As the trauma that I was experiencing during the time I was like living with my girlfriend, but I never told her. Probably like 4 times out the week, I kept having the visuals of the shootout. Like that was just like, and like, the staircase scene is like epic when you literally hear somebody saying that they're gonna effing kill you. So that was just like kept replaying.
Right.
And when I was drinking, I didn't have that. I blacked out drinking. It was like, oh, no dreams, no nothing. So I was just doing that, and I was just so trying to get away. And I didn't realize me hanging out with the college life that I was going to be an alcoholic for, I don't know, about like 7, 8 years, right?
Wow.
Just like, yeah. And I was drinking every day. Didn't matter what it was, right? It could have been like gin, whatever. It didn't matter if it was top shelf, low shelf, as long as it had like liquor in it. And that was like a real struggle for me. Nobody ever sat down and explained mental health.
Yeah.
Right. No one sat down and explained, hey, maybe you should go see a counselor or a therapist or a psychiatrist. So when, like, this is like before Google and YouTube and all this.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really talked about. And then when you did talk about it with your friends or your family, oh, what are you, a nut? Only the nuts see the psychiatrist. And so it was like a stigma of that. And that stigma alone, like, stunted my growth, to say.
Everything's lining up for the most part about how the world is in first responder universe. I mean, seriously, like your experiences, I know it was not a job, it was a life experience, but like people telling you what they did, how your body and mind reacted. This is all in line with fallout from experiencing trauma in policing. I mean, this is amazing talking to you about this kind of stuff. When people did tell you that, did you believe it? I mean, how did you receive it?
I knew something was wrong with me.
Okay.
As far as like emotionally, right? Like, they was older than me, wiser than me. So I was just like, okay, well, maybe they're right. And then one day I remember like I blacked out, right? Blacked out like really bad. I was supposed to go see like my girlfriend, like, and I woke up in the shower. Shower's like running on me, cold water, and I had my clothes on, and all I smelled like was Jameson. Okay. And I was just like, wow, like, Herbie, what's going on with you? Like she called me probably like 100 times because I told her I was going to come over. But the next day I was like, I just had cold water running on me in the shower. And I was just like, there's something wrong with me. I have to address this. And so I challenged myself, right? I was just like, hey, I'm not going to drink for a month. Let me see, like, let me get my life together. I'm not going to drink for a month. I want to prove that I am not my addiction, right? Like,
Good way
I
to
just
put it.
want to, yeah, I just want to prove, because I knew like this is rock bottom. Like, who goes to sleep in the shower with clothes on? So I did that. And then I was just like, okay, I don't need alcohol. What else can I do? And I did, because of the college experience, I dropped out. Like my grades was like horrible. But then I found another school that was willing to accept me, and I got in, and I was just like, all right, I didn't drink for a month. I'm not going to drink until the whole time I'm in school. And I put myself in situations where I felt like I was going to win. Okay, my friends want to go out to the club, they want to party. I can't do that because the alcohol brought out a demon in me where I was like punching my walls and stuff like that. They don't see that. They see the good Herbie, hey, we partying, we having a good time.
Right.
But when I was by myself, the alcohol was revealing my demons that I couldn't tame. So I put myself in a position to win, as far as I'm not going to be in that situation of like the temptation of drinking or any drugs use or anything like that. I'm going to put myself in a situation where I can win and thrive, right? I'm going to hang out with people that's opposite from me, that don't do things that I'm not going to do. So this way I can learn and grow. And it definitely helped me out a lot. And it gave me that focus and that guidance that I needed. And to fast forward, I graduated, and like my family's all in New York, and I'm just like, hey, come down. This is the biggest moment of my life. I didn't, in high school, I didn't get a chance to walk or whatever. I got the cap and gown. Come on, let's go. And they didn't come to my graduation. Didn't really make an effort. And that triggered my depression.
Oh, dang.
like even more, right? Like I'm secretly, I went to school, I didn't tell anybody. And then when it was time to graduate, that's when I was telling them. And to see my classmates, friends traveling from Minnesota, from Baltimore, from like Seattle to come to watch their kids graduate. My parents wasn't there. Um,
Hmm.
my girlfriend, who was my ex-girlfriend during this time, we separated, but we were still like adults on good terms.
Right.
She was like, look, I done seen you from like 17 to now. Let me come to your graduation. Like, this is a big moment for you. I know you're gonna act like it's not a big deal, but it is a big moment. And so I was like, sure, come on. Her and my other good friend, my best friend, they came, but it wasn't the same. When I walked, got that, diploma, whatever, wearing a cap and gown, and I look into the audience and I see those two, and I just really want my parents to see that, right? This was like my championship moment. That triggered my depression, where I went back to my old habits of drinking.
For anyone who does get re-triggered by something, what advice would you give them to make sure that they don't get triggered again right quick?
The advice I would give them is to reach out to others, right? Like as far as like the pros is what I call them, the counselors, the therapists, and the psychiatrists. For me, it was something that I had to look in the mirror and understand that reaching out for help is not a weakness, it's actually a strength,
Yeah.
right? It's the same thing as far as like you hiring somebody to design your website, right? It's the same thing as you going to the dentist. Hey, can I get a deep cleaning, right? It's the same thing. Like, we go to these specialists for whatever care that we need. If your car need an oil change, you go to a mechanic that's going to help you get that, the oil change or whatnot. So that's what I had to do. I had to gear my mind set and shift as far as that. And that's the advice I would give to anyone as far as if you are triggered by something, understand, okay, this is triggering me.
Okay.
Let me go to a pro or let me do something to break that trigger, right? Writing is key for me.
Okay.
Like it's one of the things that I do because I'm able to identify the triggers. Okay, this is alarming to me. Let me walk away from it and do something else.
I got you. Okay. Well, great advice, especially with the writing. That that's something to take note of. What else? What other
Oh yeah,
events
yeah.
started?
So I started drinking and the demons was coming out not only at home but at work, right?
Hmm.
Like I'm pretty much a calm and cool guy, and I was just being like a jerk to everyone
Mm.
at work. Like I was coming to work, you see the behavior patterns change, but not only the behavior patterns, you see the outside appearance change, right? Like my uniform was looking wrinkled, I was looking all scruffled and wasn't really taking care of myself. And then I was losing myself. So I was like, man, like I just want a good night's sleep. And I started like mixing alcohol and like over the counter drugs. And I tried to overdose, right? Because I was so broken at this point of the traumas that I experienced. And then realizing that like, I've been out here in Tampa for during that time, probably like 11, 12 years, and my parents never came out here
Right.
ever to visit me. So it was just like, if they don't care about me, why should I care about me? Right. Like,
Hmm.
I'm missing, they barely calling me. I'm doing all of this other stuff. And I was just really in a dark place. And then this one episode, like I was like, all right, I had enough. I tried to overdose 2 days in a row. And then the third day, I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm going like extra hard. And then for some odd reason, like my ex-girlfriend, she was around and she came knocking on my door. I had no idea. And as I opened the door, she's just like looking at me like, oh, like, why do you look like that? Why do you smell like that? Like, like she noticed my appearance, my odor, everything was just off. And for the first time in my life, I decided to run away from that man up mentality and tell her the truth. Hey,
Hmm.
I tried to kill myself 3 days in a row. And this is what's going on. So she's been knowing me since like 17. The tears comes out, like the crying, and she's like, we need to get you help. And for the first time ever, that gorilla off of like my back was like relieved. She decided to pick up the phone. We called the suicide lifeline number and I reached out to them. And I really realized that asking for help is something that's normal and we
Yeah.
need to normalize it. I checked myself into a mental health center. And that was a gift and a curse at the same time. It was a gift and a curse because I remember like speaking to the counselor over the phone, and she's like, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel? And I was just like a -5. And she was like, okay, well, look for a local center to get some assistance. And I did. Like I found one probably like 10 minutes away from where I lived. And I went there. And as I go there, like, they you're allowed 72 hours to be there. They do an evaluation to see, are you like harming yourself? Are you a threat? And if not, after the 72 hours, they release you. I remember like opening up to the nurse, right? The nurse is like Ruben Studdard, like a big guy, but like a gentle giant. And he's like, look, Herbie, man, you don't belong here. I don't know if you believe in God or whatnot, but God going to use you in a way where you're going to tell your story and you're going to help others. And Scott, I'm not even going to lie to you. I looked at him. I was like, can I just get my pillow and my blanket? I'm ready to cry, man. Like, this is my rock bottom. Like nobody ever thinks that they're going to be in a mental center and in a mental health center. And for him, he's like, no, like, trust me, you don't belong here. And being there, I discovered a lot of tools, like a lot of tools that I learned in life, like, growing up, but I never applied. Writing was one of them.
Right.
So like before you have to see the psychiatrist that's running this facility, they give you like a notebook and a pencil.
Okay.
So I'm writing and writing and writing. And I only started writing because I thought about what my high school basketball coach told me. What is the weakest point of your game? And I was just like, dude, you're the coach. Like, you got to tell me. And he's like, I'm going to teach you the tools to learn the weakest point of your game. So this way your opponents don't know like how to like guard you. Cool. So I use that mentality for writing, right? Let me write out the weakest points of my life. So this way I can understand when things went wrong and how I can address it to not only become better, but I can understand the triggers. So I use that mentality to help me out. And that was something that like changed my whole life. Like that actually saved my life.
That's interesting. That's interesting. You said something very important there. I mean, don't get me wrong, the whole story was profound, but no police officer and no person for that matter wakes up and says, today's the day I want to go through depression. Today's the day I'm going to start having suicide ideation. It just happens. I remember when I got home from Iraq in 2005, a year later, my family relationships are falling apart. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? Well, it was because of symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. I didn't wake up one morning and say, let's get those things going and have this life fall apart. I'm so glad you said that. What else do you write about? This is actually very useful. So please dive in more to that.
Oh yeah. So I write about like during that time I was writing about the weakness and I was understanding like where things went wrong, right?
Okay.
And then, okay, cool. The trigger was the shootout. Another trigger was my parents, the lack of care, the relationship that we had. But then I had to like understand it's going to be weird how I said this, but I had to understand that their relationship, like what happened to them for like in their growing up, for them to not show interest in me, right? Like it's bigger than just my story. What is their story for them to have a disconnect with their child? And so that gave me like a empathy type of thing. Like, I'm not going to be angry at them. I have to understand, right? Like I'm not just going to be angry at them because, they're my parents, they're supposed to do this. No, let me understand who they are as a person of what they're upbringing. And then once I did that, I started doing positive affirmations, right? When you're very in a dark place, you don't see a lot of positivity. And I was just writing, oh, I'm thankful for waking up. And then I had to learn how to talk to myself positive.
Is that what you mean? Is that what you mean by the affirmations?
No, but just the affirmations of just like, I'm thankful that I'm up. I'm thankful to be alive, right?
Okay.
Like I had to look for things that I was thankful for. And then the positive talk was, I am smart. I can believe in myself. I can achieve this. I can do this. And then something that no one talks about, I was writing about my future. I never once thought about my future, ever. When you're in depression or you're having suicidal ideation, you don't think about 5 years from now. You're probably thinking maybe about 5 minutes from now if you can. So I started thinking about the future as far as I'm going to travel more, setting
Mhm.
setting goals, right? But not like crazy goals, but like achievable goals. Hey, at the end of the year, I'm going to go to the beach. Something that was realistic. So when I did get that small win, it felt like a win. That, like I didn't want to be like, oh, hey, I'm going to go to Germany next year. It might not be realistic for my situation, but
Right.
me going to the beach is realistic. Hey, at the end of the year, I'm going to try to go to the beach. Or better yet, I will go to the beach. And I went to the beach like 4 times that year, and I felt a victory every time.
That's awesome. Police officers in particular that I've been around, some will say, well, in the year 2030, whatever, I can retire and that'll be when I'm happy again. Or when I get that pay raise, that's when I'm happy again. I feel like they're setting themselves up for mental failure talking like that. Uh, that's great what you said. But I'm going to have to start doing that, talking about realistic goals so you can feel a victory. Because when
Yeah.
there's negativity all around in maybe personal life, as well as definitely on the job, because we are exposed to people when they're at their worst for the most part. Um, and then there can be some negativity at the workplace, in the department or sheriff's office or the fire station, wherever. Looking at goals and how you can do things well for yourself, that's something to be aware of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man,
Oh,
this is
yeah.
like, you are being monumental now. Thank you so much. I mean, this is
You're
very
welcome,
helpful,
man.
a very profound story. Like, I'm not happy that you went through any of that you did, but the fact that you're taking it and helping others is monumental. Um, Before we go, are there any other things you would recommend so far as if someone's down, if someone feels like they're out of hope, what would you recommend? What are some other actions people can take?
It's going to be one that's going to sound like funny or weird, but stillness, being still, right? Sometimes we go through so many like obstacles, right? That you don't get a moment to process, right? Like even with my trauma, being in that mental health center, I was able to stay still and process this, right? Understanding my pain, the things that I went through, and being still enough to like, okay, why am I going through this? Not even like questioning like God, the universe, whatever you believe in, but understanding that things happen for a reason. Okay, I'm going through this and this up and down story. I'm in this place and I'm getting challenged by the psychiatrist there. Like why? Why me? And then realizing that okay, this happened to either help others or become a better version of myself. So being still, I was able to discover who I was or who I am. During that time, I didn't know who I was or still trying to figure out. But once I left that center in that facility, I was able to discover who I am. And then diving into books, right? Like that was something that I never did before.
Right.
It was either like, hey, let me throw the game on, or let me like play some video games or something like this. But I was diving into books, not wanting to discover somebody's life, but to dive into books and hey, what can I take from this, right? And slowing that down. So the thing I would recommend is understanding like you're not alone. Things do happen for a reason, but staying still enough to soak it in. Okay, this is not a bad life, right? Like it's a bad day or it's a bad situation, right?
Hmm.
But how can I get out of the situation? And taking time to come up with a game plan. I had to come up with a game plan.
Yeah.
Scott, I'm not lying. Like it took me 2.5 years to heal and share this story. I'm still healing today, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's
But
some yeah. The second we stop taking care of ourselves, we can go right back into a bad place for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, but you have to be dedicated to it, definitely. But 2.5 years, that's commitment right there.
yeah, yeah. And I did this all on my own. Like I couldn't afford therapy and all that. But now, like, I love how I hate to say this, but like COVID happens, and I started seeing so many therapists and psychiatrists offering lower rates for people to talk about their mental health. Now you started seeing more mental health apps as far as like Talkspace. You can
Yes.
just call a therapist and boom. So I love that. So but if you're going through something, don't be scared to reach out.
Exactly. Exactly. Man, you've been so relatable, and just like I said, some things align the same way it can with first responders. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to share your story, and also providing useful information to those who are going through a hard time. Police suicides are up. Mental health problems are enormous, especially this last year with a lot of blanketed negative media attention, and coronavirus pandemic really didn't help out things as well. It's just all these added stressors to the already dangerous job that is involved in it. So this has been very helpful. So thank you again. For those who want to find out more about you, or contact you, where can we find you?
Yeah, so it's real easy. You can find me at HB Mack or Herbie Mack. Either or, you type in Herbie Mack, you'll find me on Instagram, Facebook, everywhere, YouTube, and my website is herbiemack.com.
And you're a coach too, right?
Yes, I'm a mental health coach, and I also speak as well. So yeah, man.
Heck yeah, you're a game changer.
Likewise, you're a game changer, my friend.
Well, Herbie, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Oh, anytime, man. Anytime you need me, I'm here for you, man.
All right. Thank you.